Hello friends, welcome to today's video. If we have not met, hi, my name is Tanya, and today I'm going to talk about the books that I read in October, which is wild to think that November is already here. November is also my birthday month, so it's just fun, and there's so many wonderful things happening in November, and I am very excited. But I do still want to take a moment to talk about the books that I read in October, so if you're interested, let's get into that discussion. And then at the end of the video, I will also talk about the books that are on my November TBR. So I read a total of 6 books, and one book was a DNF, and then I have started a lot because I am more so a mood reader, but I'm trying somewhat to stick to my TBR. But I'll talk about some of the ones that I read. They definitely were not on my TBR, but it is what it is, right? Reading is for fun. So I'll start with the DNF just to kind of get that out of the way, and it was this book, Flip for Murder. This is a cozy mystery. I had it on my TBR list for October, but I don't know, I just wasn't really feeling. I was trying to do like tandem with or to do audiobook and this, and I just really wasn't getting into it. I don't know, something about the style, and I just don't know. I haven't read too many cozies, and I don't know if maybe I'm just not a cozy fan, although I mean I feel like I would. I've liked some, but maybe let me know what are some of your favorite cozies. Maybe just the style wasn't for me. So I'm just gonna pass the book probably along because I found it in my library, and I know I don't think I'm gonna read it again or like finish it, so I'm gonna pass this along and unhaul it. But that was just a DNF for me. Again, maybe just personal, I don't know, it just wasn't a thing. I didn't really like it very much. Then the next book that I read is, I guess, most recent that I just finished, and that was Quicksilver. I know that this book has been really popular, and it's on KU, which is how I read it. I ended up rating it a 4 out of 5. I do have thoughts on it. I think I rated a 4 out of 5 because it was a fun time. I had a fun time reading. I felt like I did get sucked into the story. If you're unaware, it's a romantasy, and so it kind of has those elements that we've come to know from a lot of romantasy books that are obviously popular these days. And I thought it was a really fun time. It made me think of some elements of ACOTAR, if you have read it. So I don't know, that was kind of fun. There's elements of found family that I really enjoyed. There is spice in the book, and the spice I think is like, I know some people really like spice in their books, which that's, you do you, and I don't mind it, but it's just some of the spice is weird to me, and I'm not a fan of that aspect. I did enjoy the fantasy aspects, and then there's like Quicksilver. If the story you don't know, it's there is, I would kind of always say like dystopian in a way. It's this world where the gods have left and things are divided into different, like they're divided into different sections of a kingdom. And so there is this girl, and she is in the 3rd section, which is like very poverty stricken, and just life sucks for them, and they're kind of isolated from the rest of where like the rich, and you know, they don't have enough food, they don't have enough water, so she kind of just has a crappy life, and things happen. She has to try to survive, and she finds herself in a magical realm, and there are fae involved, and there's a dark, broody, you know, fae king and all these things. And so it is really fun. I did enjoy it. I do have to say, I kind of enjoyed the second half of the book a little bit more because more of the action was happening, more of kind of the politics, the other found family members, and more of their story had progressed, like more of the romance and the relationship. And so I did enjoy that aspect. It did have kind of a crazy ending, so I am curious to see the second book. But I mean, I do have to say, I don't think it's like profound, oh my gosh, literary fiction or anything like that, but it is a fun time. But I would say it's very kind of typical to a lot of the romantasy books that we've been seeing. So if you like a lot of those elements, which I know, I don't mind a good romantasy read here and there, it was a fun time. And this next book that I read, this one was on my TBR, and I actually finished it. It was, I still don't know how to say these names. The names are kind of different in here. Kyland, I don't know, but it is a book by Mia Sheridan. And one other book that I read by her, I was not a huge fan, so I wasn't sure how I would feel about this. And I have my thoughts. So I ended up rating this 3 out of 5. I have to say the second half of the book I enjoyed a lot more, but this follows the story of two characters, and they are in the Appalachian Mountains. It starts out with them. They are teenagers in high school, and they are both in severe poverty. They're in severe poverty within their homes, and they're just both having challenges within their home lives. I'm sorry, I can't, Tenley is I don't know, Tenley? I think that's how you say her name. She's struggling with her life at home. Her mother has issues with mental health, and so she's battling that. Keeland, he has his own challenges as well, and they're both living in this environment of poverty. And so it's following them and the relationship that they form. And then later on, a few years later, we see the story continue when they are adults in their 20s and following their relationship. I have to say that was like I said, that was my favorite part, is the second half of the story. So much of it came out, and like so many elements, and the romance, there was a lot, and I really enjoyed that second half. Now the issue that I had a bit, and maybe again, the issue that I had a bit with was the first half of the book, and not even so much, I think it was an interesting story. Like I said, I really got into it, but the thing that kind of bothered me, and let me know if there are others like this, but I understand if there's spice in books. I'm not against spice in books, but my issue is when it is graphically described and the characters are underage or like they're students. So for example, like here, again, I'm not saying that tough subjects can't be discussed, or intimacy and things with teenagers and young adults. Like, I understand that, but the way that it is written, if I'm making sense. So for example, these two characters in the beginning of the story, they are in high school. They are minors, they're in high school, or they're high school students. And yes, they're in a relationship, which is fine, but then when there's like graphic intimate scenes, that to me was a little bit icky, because I was like, they're technically youths, like they're in high school, and so I wish that it was written very differently, because I felt kind of icky as an adult reading it as if they were adults, because they are not. And so that was really kind of bothersome to me, because I was just like, I get it if there's spice or intimacy scenes when they're adults, the characters are adults, it's written for adults, it's a little bit different. But when we are describing in detail, right, I don't want to, but you know what I'm saying, like in detail describing them and the characters, and they are in high school, that was a little bit off-putting for me. Like, I felt like you did not have to do it that way. You could imply or say it in different ways. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like in adult books, if there is intimacy, things are described different. Like, you should not be graphically describing to me what this high school boy looks like, if that makes sense. Like, it was awkward. I didn't like it. I skipped that part. It was just kind of cringy to me. I was like, I don't like that. So this was like a 2.5, 3 for me because of that, because I just was kind of bothered by the first half. The second half was redeeming, so I don't know. I just don't know if I'm a Mia Sheridan fan, because this is the second book by her I've read, and I'm not like wowed by it. So there's my thoughts on that. I don't know if I'd recommend it or not, but I don't know. Then the next book that I read, my friend Laura was like, Tanya, you should check it out. So one thing that I'm kind of a guilty pleasure for me is mafia romances. And this one is called Filthy Rich Fae. And this is like ACOTAR mixed with mafia. And so I was kind of intrigued by all of that. And it was just a fun read. I did end up rating this 4 out of 5. It does have spice in it, so be aware, which again, sometimes the spice is not always my favorite part. But I just really liked the concept, because again, it's like the mafia elements that I enjoy in a mafia romance, but it had that fantasy element as well. And so there it follows the character of Kate and then Lachlan, and it takes place in New Orleans and then kind of another realm as well. But Lachlan is the leader of this gang, essentially, or crime, right, like a mafia that is his family controls, and so you learn more about that aspect. But she makes an agreement or like a contract with him in order to help save her brother, because he gets into things, and so that follows their story. This one also does have a kind of a cliffhanger ending, so I'm curious to see what the second book will be. I felt like it was kind of the perfect length. It wasn't too long for a fantasy romance, and it was just really fun. I don't know, I really liked this one. I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't know what to expect. I've never read anything by this author, but it was just a good time and a good I don't know, I just really liked it. Again, if you're a fan of Mafia, maybe you would like this as well. Then the other book that I finished was Taming 7, and this is the 5th book in the Boys of Tolman, and I'm still a little bit confused. I have to do more research, or if you know, comment down below, because I thought this was it and the series was over. But then I was reading in the back and it says, Claire and Gibbs's story has concluded, but the Boys of Tolman series is far from over. So does that mean there are more books in this universe? If yes, I'm so excited. But this is, like I said, the 5th book, Taming 7, and it follows 2 of the characters, so a couple that we see and we get to know in all the other books. I ended up rating this 4 out of 5. I was slightly a little bit let down for my expectations that I had for Gibbsy and Claire, because I was so excited to hear about the story, because I love Gibbsy. He's one of my favorite characters. Slightly let down, but overall I still really loved. There's just something I love about being in this world. It's very, I always say, it's very just character driven. There's not really crazy like action or anything. There's no fantasy elements or anything. It's just literally talking about people's lives, their emotions, what they're going through. But for some reason, I just really love it. And again, just when you've been into this series for so long, I just love being in that world with that friend group and seeing the other characters as well, because they were in here as well. It does, I always preface, it does have a lot of trauma and things in it. I don't want to give too much away, because like I said, this is the 5th book in the series, but I just really do enjoy it, but just go into that being aware that there is serious topics as well, and things that are pretty serious that are discussed and that go on in the books. So the next book that I read was Remarkably Bright Creatures, and I listened to this as an audiobook, and I've been seeing this around and I wanted to give it a try, and I ended up rating this 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed this book. I think if you're a fan of someone who likes Frederick Bachman, which I really do, you will really enjoy this book as well. I have to say, because I was looking at reviews on Goodreads and some people were like, nothing really happened. Again, it's one of those books that is more character driven and like people's lives, rather than like action, drama, suspense. Like, it doesn't really have those elements, I would say. But if you've read, like I said, if you've read Frederick Bachman's writing, it's very similar to that, and I personally enjoy that kind of writing. And it follows a story of a few different characters, and their stories end up intertwining. But one of the interesting things about this book is that it also follows the point of view of an octopus Marcellus, and that was one of my favorite things, because I have been really loving books with a POV of an animal, and it's just so interesting because you just learn, for one, you just learn interesting information about Pacific octopuses. It's so interesting, but to hear things from their point of view. And essentially this octopus is at the end of his life, and he's kind of discussing his time and his life in captivity at this like marine biology place, like a zoo kind of. But as he's there, he's talking about the different characters, which we are also following, like Tova. She's an elderly woman whose son has passed away, and so he's talking about her and kind of interacting actually with her. There's kind of a mystery there to unsolve a little bit, and it follows kind of a cast of other characters as well in this small town in the, I think it's Pacific Northwest for majority of it. I just really enjoyed it. I thought the audiobook is also really great, so if you want to check it out, the voices are done really well. Marcellus, the octopus, and I just, again, if you want just a good read about people and just lives, and I feel like sometimes second chances and elements of discovering who you are in your family and things like that, I just really liked it. And yeah, like I said, I gave it a 4 out of 5, so I would recommend it. It is a good read. Yeah, so this next book that I read, I have it on KU, but I also listened to the audio, which I found it on Hoopla. It's called A Noble Masquerade, and this is a historical romance. I think it's a newer release. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun. If you are into like a Victorian era, just Regency romance, I think you'll really enjoy it. And it follows this character, the female, like I can never remember names, you guys know, but the female character, she is a lady in society, and she for years has written letters, kind of like a journaling aspect in a way. She just journal these letters to the friend of her brother. So she's not actually sending the letters to him. She uses it as like a therapeutic way to just write thoughts throughout the years. Well, lo and behold, those letters get sent to the guy, like, oh, and so it's crazy because there's elements of also mystery and a little bit of espionage and kind of mistaken identity. And there is, meanwhile, also this valet that comes to be her brother's valet, and there seems to be a romance between the two of them. And it's just very interesting. The banter is kind of fun. There is, like I said, elements of mystery and espionage going on. There's like a little side story of a kind of like a case that has to be resolved. And so it's just really good. I really liked it. The ambiance, the feel of it. Like I said, the banter, the romance. It was just really good. It was a fun time. And so some parts of the pacing were a little bit like, but overall it was a really good read. So I'd say check it out. Like I said, 4.5 stars. I really like it. The next part that I want to get into is my TBR for November. And I always say, right, I've been trying to get a little better at having a TBR, but I'm normally a very big mood reader, so it really depends if I'll get to it, but I'm trying. And so I wanted to go over that stack here with you guys. It's kind of a lot of random things. Most likely I probably will not read all of them. I'll read a bunch of other stuff as well, but I think it's helpful for myself, honestly. One of the first things, and this is just, I don't know if anyone else, comment down below, it is the Royal Diaries Anastasia. Now I have read this. If any of you are especially like a 90s kid and historical fiction, this is like where my love of historical fiction came from. I remember reading all of these, and my goal is that I like to rebuild my collection because I don't know what happened. I used to have a bunch of these and like the Dear America books, and I know that they're not exactly like super, like there's some that are historical fiction in a way, but I just really like them. They're so fun. If you don't know what they are these diaries that are written, so there's the Royal Diaries and then there's the Dear America that are kind of like regular people, so not royalty, but they're based on real people in history. So this one's Anastasia, or Anastasia as we would say it in Russian, and it's her story. And I got this for my birthday because my friend Molly is like, she knows that I love all of these books. I'm trying to collect them and love of Anastasia, so she got it for me. And it's literally just like a diary, like it's like you're reading Anastasia's diary, but it's always really fun because obviously it's based on historical elements, and then always in the back there's like different actual photos of who that person is, and you just learn about them too. So it's a quick read, but I just thought I wanted to get back into rereading these again, and I just am so excited. So there's that. This is on my TBR. I'll put it over here. Then the next one that I have, I'll see if I get to it, but it is The Scythe, right? And I've heard a lot about this series, and I've really been liking young adult dystopian kind of books, and I've been kind of, I don't know, been wanting to read that, and so I'm hoping to get into this. I just have the first book. I think there's 4 or 5 books in the series, so I'm curious to see, but essentially I think all I know is that it says, a world with no hunger, no disease, no war. So basically like humanity, they're just like living, like there's no challenges, there's no reason for them to really die. So I think because they've conquered death, so then essentially you have these people that are kind of the scythe, like they are death, if I'm correct, and they're the ones who end your life, because obviously there would be like too many people in the world, so they do that so they control the population and keep it under control. I don't know, I'm just very curious about this, and I've heard a lot about it, so I want to see what it is. I feel like I would really enjoy it. Then this next one I picked up from my library. It is Nothing Like the Movies. I believe this is, I want to say it's the sequel to Better Than the Movies, and I really enjoyed that book. I think I read it last year, and it is a young adult romance, but it's really fun. One thing that I liked about it, and I think this one has it too, is it has these quotes from different romantic comedies. I remember whenever I read the Better Than the Movies book, I remember I just kept wanting to watch romantic comedies that were mentioned, and I'm hoping this one will be a fun read as well. It does seem, kind of big, but I think it'll be good, and I'm just excited. I think Lynn Painter does a great job of just writing a young adult romance that is still engaging, because I'm not always a super huge fan of young adult romances, but her writing, the way she does it, I really do enjoy it. So I'm curious to give this one a try. Then this one, I'm about actually halfway through. I'm listening to it on audio on Hoopla, but I'm also reading it kind of at the same time. So it is Of Gold and Shadows. This is a new book, as my library points out. This is a also historical romance, and I'm really liking it as well. So it follows a story. It's set in 1888 in Victorian England, and it follows a story of Amy, and she is an aspiring Egyptologist. She's very educated, and but of course at that time women really aren't seen as being capable of those things, especially in academia. Her father's a professor at Oxford, so she gets hired by this guy named Edmund. Some kind of mysterious circumstance, but he's come from India with a huge treasure from Egypt and all these artifacts, and so he needs an Egyptologist to go through it and kind of appraise his stuff. And so he was going to hire her father because he is obviously like the most renowned Egyptologist professor at Oxford, but he's gone, so he ends up hiring her, and it just follows the story. There's elements of mystery as well, things going on with the treasure at the house, like at his estate, and it's just, I don't know, I'm really liking it so far. I kind of just have been, like I said, I've really been into historical kind of a kick, I don't know, on that kick for the books, and it looks like it's going to be a series because it says Time's Lost Treasures, and I love anything with archaeology, Egyptology. I loved all that stuff growing up. And so I'm really loving that this is in like a Regency and like a, you know, like Victorian novel. I don't know, I'm really liking it. So if you're into those kinds of things, I would give this one a try. Then as we're getting into the holidays, I already have my Christmas trees up. I'm so excited, but I'm going to try to give this one. This is one that I found on a library cart, like this card, but I wanted to give it a try. It says 7 Days of Us, and I think what ends up happening is that it is Christmas time. This family is coming together, and they actually have to isolate or stay quarantined because one of the children is a doctor that just came from abroad, and so they have to quarantine. Kind of give me a nod to COVID times, kind of crazy. But so it looks like for 7 days they're on lockdown, and I think there's like mysteries and secrets coming out, and just, you know, kind of when you have a bunch of people together that normally aren't, like what's going to happen with that. And so I'm just curious to see. It seems like it's, I guess, like funny, kind of serious. I don't know. I don't really know anything about it. I've never heard of this book, but I want to give it a try. It's kind of in the holiday elements, holiday spirit, so I want to try it out. Then you guys know that I have been trying to read Frankenstein, and has been for over a year now, I feel like, and I'm gonna keep trying, but I'm not feeling it for some reason. Maybe if I try it as an audiobook. So I wanted to try a different classic, and it is The Secret Garden. And so I'm hoping, again, I'm going to try this idea that has been working really well for me of doing an audiobook along with the print. And so I kind of go back and forth depending on what I feel like at the time. And so I'm hoping, I think I read this years and years ago, but honestly I don't remember a lot of it. And so I want to try reading The Secret Garden for my classic, and so we'll see how this goes if I get to it. Again, I really love these paper mill. I buy them on Book Outlet. I think they're beautiful. I love how they feel. They're like the imitation leather, I guess, but I don't know, I really like it, and I'm hoping maybe for my argument for myself is that if I finish some of these classics, my goal is to try to buy more of them on Book Outlet during my birthday month, and so we'll see, right? Trying to talk myself into it. If I read this, then I can buy more classics. So we'll see, but I'm gonna give this one a try. Then this next one that I want to read, again, with my like Regency Victorian things, is that I wanted to read this book by Julie Klassen. She's actually a Minnesota author, and I've liked a lot of her books, and so I have not read this one. I've had this one for a while actually, but I just haven't gotten to it. But it is The Secret of Pembroke Park, and it's kind of a hefty one, but a little flop there to it. So it says here that Abigail is a practical daughter. She feels she will end up a spinster, especially as she has a little dowry, and the one man she thought might marry her seems to have fallen for her younger, prettier sister. So facing financial ruin, Abigail and her father search for more affordable lodgings until a strange solicitor arrives with an astounding offer: the use of a distant manor house abandoned for 18 years. So they go to this Pembroke Park and basically find it kind of abandoned and weird, kind of left behind. Everything's kind of creepy almost. And so they're there, I guess. And so there seems to be some sort of mysteries maybe happening, some rumors, some I don't know, secret rooms and kind of stuff. Supposedly there's a secret room filled with treasure. I don't know, that just all sounds interesting to me. I'm thinking maybe there might be a romance with it too. I have no idea, honestly, but I'm excited and I'm trying to get through all of Julie Klassen's books. I'm definitely behind because she has even a new one coming out a bit in a series, and I have not even started that series. So I'm hoping to read a few more of her books. Then the next book that I want to finish, because I'm also about halfway, this happens as a mood reader, but I just kind of was thinking about itching to finish it. It is A Fate Inked in Blood, and I have the pretty special edition from Fairy Loot. It is a Viking romantasy, and I don't know why, I just, again, being a mood reader, sometimes I'm like, and I switch, but I really was liking the series, and like I said, it's Viking. I just feel like in a mood for Viking things. I love Viking like lore and stories set in that time, and it's just really cool because it is fantasy as well, so it has elements. She has powers and she's kind of being foretold. What is the character's name? Oh, Freya. So Freya, she is finding out that she's supposedly like an answer to a prophecy or something like that, and they're trying to figure it out. There is, of course, this male character, which again, I forget his name. Is it, let's see, Bjorn? Yeah, I think it's Bjorn. So Bjorn and Freya, they kind of have to be together because he's tasked with protecting her because she's the answer to this prophecy, and there's war and politics. I don't know, it just seemed interesting, and again, I wanted to jump back into this world, and about halfway, so hopefully I will finish up this one this month as well. And then I like to have an ebook that I'm reading, so I actually am really excited. I got approved for an art copy on NightGalley of Some Like It Scott, and it is by Pepper Basham, and this is my first Pepper Basham. I have heard of this author. I think she writes like clean romances, and I have not read anything by her, so I'm very excited that I got approved for an ARC, so thank you, Pepper Basham and NightGalley. I'm really excited. And it says that she's an American travel writer, and I think she ends up going to Scotland, and she's very much so like kind of been all over. She, you know, never really stays in one place, whereas it's the opposite for the Scott. I forget his name. But he is kind of the opposite. He's always been in one place. He wants to remain, from what I'm understanding, like he doesn't want to leave. And so there seems to be something that happens, but she has to stay there for an extended period of time in Scotland, which is not what she planned. But so yeah, I don't know, like, I'm guessing a romance ensues, but it just seems interesting. Yeah. I don't know, it just, the cover seems really cute. I'll try to insert it in here so you guys can see, but I'm just excited to give it a try and see, because again, if I like this author, it'll be fun because she has a lot of other books that I've kind of been interested in and heard good things about. So that is my e-reader or like Kindle pick for the month. So anyway, thank you guys so much. I hope that you are all doing well, and make sure to see if you can share down below maybe some of your favorite reads for the month and what you're planning on reading in November. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone.